everyone, and welcome to another episode of Careful for Spoilers. I am your host, James Barnes, and today, guys, I'm joined by my girlfriend, Mia, and we are going to be talking about It Follows to continue our Road to Halloween series. Mia, it is a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
I'm super happy to be here again with you.
Yeah, I am so happy to be talking about It Follows with you. We have some other movies that we're going to be talking about, and I am very, very excited to be doing it with you.
I am too.
Yeah, so this film was written and directed by David Robert Mitchell, and it had its wide release in March 13th of 2015. The film was made for $2 million, and it grossed $14.6 million at the domestic box office. Now, my thing is, The Nun made $365 million, and that movie is nowhere as good as It Follows. Like, what are your thoughts?
I agree. But I get it. It was attached to a series already. So, I mean, it was already garnering certain expectations, whereas It Follows was an independent release and nobody knew what to expect from it. But it is disappointing. I have a very, very big, chip on my shoulder when it comes to horror movies not making what I think they should make, especially when there's a lot of originality and thought put into it.
Yeah, most definitely. To me, it's just not fair. And like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Like, The Nun had a built-in franchise. It was built up on a bunch of other movies that made a bunch of money, and this made the most. You know what I mean? And it just hurts when you see something like It Follows and some other movies that we're going to be talking about on our Road to Halloween series. There's just so much great films out there, great horror films that are just not being given the attention that they need to. And it really does suck. So the director came up with this idea after having nightmares of being stalked by some kind of predator walking slowly towards him. It's so weird, the things that come to you in your dreams, because James Cameron, he dreamt about the Terminator in his dreams, and it is one of my favorite franchises today. Like, what do you think about that dream, that weird dream that someone was able to turn into an incredible film?
It's definitely something that I'm jealous of, because I have some very strange dreams of my own that I don't know how to put into a screenplay form.
I keep telling you, you just need to talk, just record it in a voice memo, or just write it down, just do it, and then we can tweak it and work it into a story. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, I know. I really should do it. It's just, I guess you could say, the fear of not being sure of how it's actually going to come out, in film. Some things, maybe make a better book than a film. Who knows?
I mean, we could do both. We could make it a book, and then someone could adapt it. That's how these things work all the time. I think that would be really cool. Something else that the director did that I thought was really cool was the fact that the timeline was intentionally ambiguous. Like, there are some things that feel like it could be present day, but some things, like how they dress, some of the stuff you see in their homes, the cars, it's like, what time period are we in? I really like that, because some things in media, like Batman the Animated Series, for instance, you don't really know what time period it takes place in. There's so many different things that could lead you to think about different time periods, and I just love that it just makes the film feel like it exists in its own universe.
I definitely agree with that, because I had a hard time trying to place what time period we were in. I felt like the entire decor of Jay and Kelly's home looked like it was stuck in, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s somewhat. I feel like my grandparents' house looked more modern than that. So I was a little bit thrown off by it, but it makes sense, like you said, kind of placing it in a whole different type of atmosphere and its own little sub-world, so to speak.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And the screenplay was written in 2011, and it took them so long to get it made. It just makes me think of those films that are on someone's shelf right now. Someone's script is on a shelf right now that just won't be made, or it's going to take years to make. It just sucks to see stuff like that happen. And I've said it so many times on this podcast, but The Bye Bye Man got made. The Bye Bye Man got made. People put money into it, and I'm pretty sure The Bye Bye Man made more money than It Follows, which pisses me off even more. Like, it's just not fair. It's really not fair.
It's not. And now I'm curious. I really hope the Bye Bye Man did not make more money than It Follows, because that is a travesty.
I'm pretty sure it did. Like, I can look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure that it did. And it's just absolutely ridiculous to think that films like this, again, just aren't getting the attention and the wide releases that they need so that audiences can see great horror movies like this, movies like Truth or Dare, another movie that I know for a fact probably made more money than It Follows. Like, another thing that I wanted to talk about before we dive in, this place kind of feels like Derry to me in a weird way. Like, you don't really know where the parents are most of the time. Like, you see Jay and Kelly's mom sometimes, but where's Greg's parents? We don't see we see Greg's mom, but that's later on at the end. Like, where are their parents?
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. Like, honestly, at the first couple of viewings, I really only thought that I saw Jay and Kelly's mom like once, but then I realized I saw her like at least 3 times throughout the film. But still, these kids go on these, long adventures and nobody seems to give a crap. Like, whose parents are that chill? It's like, yeah, just, go on a road trip. Don't tell us anything.
So the Bye Bye Man made $26 million.
That's insulting.
I mean, it's not that much more. It's like 12 million more, but it's still more money than It Follows, which is a great movie, and I can't wait to talk about this. So are you ready to dive in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so let's dive in. So the opening of the film, we start off in the suburbs, and we see, I believe her name is Annie, right?
Yep.
We see Annie running out of her home in heels, which is the weirdest thing. Like, why would you grab heels? Or if, like, whatever she's wearing, like the top and the shorts, that's obviously something you would wear at home. Why grab the heels?
I have no idea. I don't know. Who knows what the case was? Maybe that was like the last pair of shoes she had worn like the night before, maybe, and it was just there, like, quickly accessible.
That's a good point.
But still, those, like, you're running from something.
Yeah, and she obviously, like, she's really close to home too. Like, wherever she leaves, she goes straight into her house, and then she, like, grabs some keys, and then that's where she heads to, like, the beach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, and this is the first time we get the score, which I really love the score. I think the score really sets the pace for what's coming in the film. It's weird, unique score that you've never heard anywhere else. I believe the composer's name is Disaster Piece. He did the score for Triple Frontier. I can't really remember the score. And he did a couple other video shorts, but nothing else major. But I really love the score in this film. What are your thoughts on the score?
Yeah, I really enjoy it too. The use of good sound effects and good visuals is very, very important to me. I'm a little bit of a sound snob, and
a little
a lot. I did enjoy all of the LFE effects. Somebody had fun with that.
Oh yeah, that was a great time mixing. Like, oh man, those low ends are amazing.
Yes.
So we see Annie. She is at the beach. She calls her parents. She's like, Dad, I just wanted to let you guys know that I love you. I'm sorry for being a bitch all of those years. And then the next time we see Annie, it's morning. She's dead. Her leg is broken and twisted, and then her other leg, I can't tell if her actual foot is missing, like it's broken from the ankle.
Yeah, it's just broken. It's still, like, in the immediate shot, it's just detached from the rest of her leg.
Yeah, and she looked fucked up. And from that moment, I'm like, okay, whatever this is that's following these people, this is what it does, and it does not look good.
Yeah, it's not fucking around at all.
Yeah, so next up, we get our first introduction to Jay. We see Jay in her pool. She's just swimming inside of the pool. I believe this is where we also meet Kelly.
Yeah.
For the first time, we also meet Kelly there. And then these 2 kids that are just staring at her in her bathing suit in the pool, swimming around. Just kids, little boys. What are you going to do? You see a hot girl in the pool, you want to look.
Yeah, it was funny.
This is where we also get the introduction to Paul and Yara, and Jay is walking down the street with her sister. Her sister's smoking a cigarette, and I guess I thought initially that they were walking to school, but after we were watching this to prep for the podcast, we kind of realized that I guess Jay was just walking with Kelly just so that she can just talk and smoke a cigarette because she doesn't want her mom to find out.
Yeah, I that's how I perceived it, because they went back into their house. So I don't know. Maybe they were coming home from school. You could be right. Who knows? Yeah. I just kind of read it that way.
Yeah. And then we find out that Jay has a date. And Jay and her date go to the movies. And I can't remember if we even find out what they even went to watch.
I don't know.
Because you said it looked like a stage show, right?
Yeah, it looked like a actual like theater, not a cinema per se, but somewhere you'd watch a play, because there was like somebody playing the organ.
Yeah, which is another thing. Like, what time period does this take place in?
It's so off-putting. It really is hard to like get a grasp of what era this is supposed to be in at all.
Yeah, and it's small stuff like that just throws the audience off kilter for everything else that's coming. You're already supposed to be so uncomfortable, and it's like, I can't place my finger on something that should be really simple, and it's just something else to throw you off, which is something I thought was really interesting watching the film. So they're playing this game. I guess the game is them just trying to figure out who the other person would prefer to be if they would want to like switch lives.
Yeah.
And they're sitting down in the theater, and he's pointing towards the door, and he's saying he's seeing this girl in a yellow dress, but Jay doesn't see the girl. Mm-hmm. So it's like instantly he's like, all right, would you mind if we go? And you want to know, like, well, why is he the only one that sees this girl in this yellow dress, and why does he need to leave right now? You know what I mean? Like, what did you think about that scene?
Yeah, I mean, I had no like concept of what the hell was going on at that point. In hindsight, I was just like, oh shit, you know. But I mean, I didn't know what to make of it. Obviously, you know, I gathered that it had something to do with whatever follows people, but I don't know where it was going to go. It was kind of just like, okay.
Yeah, and that's something I love in my films. I love ambiguity. I love not knowing what's going on, what's about to happen. I thought it was a lot of fun watching this film.
It kind of drove me a little bit insane, because I like to have some concept of what's going on.
That's good, though. It should drive you insane.
In this film, they did it well. It didn't feel like we were being stringed along with no purpose. It actually played really well into the storytelling and the tension they were trying to build.
Yeah. So, to me, I think they went on another date. But did they just go to the beach that same night?
No, because technically, yeah, it was a completely different date.
Right.
Yeah, it was because she was talking to her sister about, you know, whether or not they did it yet.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they just went on a date to go, you know, chill at the lake or beachfront. I don't know. But yeah, that was a whole different date.
Yeah, so they're at the lake or the beach, whatever. I mean, I guess it would be the beach. It seems very accessible to wherever they are in this place. So I'm guessing they go to the beach. He looks into her eyes, and they start making out, and she initiates that they should go to the car.
Hey.
So they bang it out in the car, and then she's laying down, she's touching these flowers, I forgot exactly what she was talking about, but he goes to the trunk, and then we see him get back into the back seat of the car. He's kissing her back and all this stuff. I'm thinking maybe round two. And then he drugs her. I guess it's chloroform.
I have no idea.
He knocks her out completely unconscious, ties her up, and takes her into the abandoned building. And I really love this shot. It's a really wide shot, and you can tell that the camera is attached to a rig that's attached to the chair that she's in. So whenever she moves, you get that full view, and I loved it. Like, what did you think of that scene?
Yeah, it was a really great shot. It did kind of pull you into the segment a little bit better, because it made you feel like you were in her space. It kind of immersed you a little bit more, because it felt like the fear was more palatable.
Yeah, most definitely. That's a great way to put it. So when she finally comes to consciousness, he starts telling her what's happening. And it's like you're finally getting all of this exposition. It's like, I didn't want to do this to you, someone did this to me, like I didn't want to do this to you, but you need to listen to me. This was the only way that I could get you to listen, that I could get you to believe me. And then he takes her in the chair and he rolls her to the edge, and then we see it. And it's this naked woman just walking across these train tracks. And what are you thinking in this moment the first time you see the movie?
I honestly had no idea, once again, like what to think. Like, there are some concepts that, you know, kind of caught on a little bit later, but in this exact moment, I'm just like, why is there a naked woman, like, I guess, just slowly strolling across this abandoned area? I didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah, and she looks scared out of her mind this entire movie. The lead actress does a really good job in this entire film. And then we finally see the naked lady walking into the building, and Jeff, well, at the beginning we think his name is Hugh, and he has his flashlight and he's standing right next to it. And it's obviously not paying attention to him because it needs to go after her first and then him. Mm-hmm. So he takes her just so she can see it, and then like you said when we were watching it, he waited until it got a little bit too close before he decided to move her.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, once again, great tension building shot. It just felt like, okay, like, are you gonna move her now? Like, this thing is like less than 6 feet away. Let's go.
Yeah, so he gets her back into the car, he drives her back home and just dumps her out on the street and just drives off with her hands still tied in her underwear. Like, the fuck, bro?
Yeah, like, my exact like note is just like, why did this asshole just drop her on the ground with her fucking underwear and bra on? Like, why would you do that? Like,
yeah, I'm like, after you knocked her out, the least you could do is just put her clothes back on,
right? Like, God.
Like, you didn't need to embarrass her further, dude. Like, Jesus. So the police show up. We get the scene with the angle where Greg and I guess his sister or his mom, I guess that might be the first time we see the mom, where they're talking about...
No, that person looked too young.
So you think it might be like a sister, or maybe just like some girl?
It's maybe just some girl, because I don't know, who knows? Like, we don't know anything about these like people's families, really.
Yeah, again, I like the ambiguity, and it doesn't really, they don't matter. Yeah, really,
in the grander scheme of things, they don't. So
yeah, so they're looking across the street at Jay's house, and we see the police, and like you brought the attention to it, her mom isn't even there. Like, she's talking to the police, her mom isn't there. They want to know if it was consensual. Then we see Jay in the hospital, they're checking her out and everything. And then when she was all good and they checked her out, the next thing we see is her in school. Now, this scene made me think of Halloween. This is a scene to me where Laurie is sitting in school. She looks out the window to her left the exact same way while her teacher is talking about something from a book. And when Laurie looks outside, she sees Michael. And in this, Jay sees it as this woman in this like house dress just walking slowly through the campus. And how creepy is this old woman? Yeah. Or maybe she's just creepier because I know it's like a demon thing.
I mean, old people and young kids are always like weird in horror movies. So.
Why is that a thing? Like, why is like young kids and old people so scary in movies? Beginning and ending of life, I guess. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I don't know. It's really weird. So we finally get back to Jay's house after she leaves, and she tells her friends, she tells her sister what happened at school. And of course, like, they want to believe her, but I mean, how do you really explain, oh yeah, I just thought this old lady was following me? Like, how would you even tell that to your friends, to your family? Like, how would you tell that to me? I don't know, honestly. Like, at that point, like, I just don't know. It's such a hard thing to grasp, and it's like, at that point, she doesn't have any concept of what this really is. Like, she obviously can kind of tell that nobody else can see it, because the two girls that were in the hallway at her school when she said like hello, and obviously
it, which was the old woman at this particular time, didn't respond, obviously the girls in the hall were like, what the fuck is wrong with this girl? So yeah. I think she kind of caught on like, okay, no one else can see it, but at the same time, what is it? I wouldn't know how to explain that.
Yeah, it's like, what do you say? Like, I can't show you anything. It's such a confusing thing, and it's like, it's so sudden, you know. She was just this normal girl, and now she's just been thrown into this extremely fucked up situation. So she can't sleep. Paul, of course, Paul is the guy. He is the definition of friend zone. Yeah, like, Jay does not see him in that light in any way, shape, or form, no matter how much she tries to play with his emotions, which is what I think. Like I think girls people fuck with other people when they know that they like them. Even if it's not like intentionally to hurt them, you just do it. Like, what do you think?
I mean, I feel like because Paul always initiates conversations about, like, you know, their first kiss or whatever.
Yeah, like what was the point of bringing up the first kiss?
I don't know.
I think she's just fucking with him.
I don't know. Teenagers are stupid and vapid and self-centered. So I did kind of want to know, like, why are Yara and Paul always in Kelly and Jay's house? Do they not, like, do their parents just not give a shit about where they are ever? Like,
study group? I don't know.
Every day?
Every day.
At any time of the night. Like, they sleep over. Like, does nobody care? It's just weird to me.
That's why I'm like, are we in Derry? Because it's like, this is clearly Detroit, but are we in Derry? Because these parents don't care about their kids.
Yeah, I guess.
So they're watching TV. They're talking about the first time that they kissed. They talk about when Paul kissed Kelly, and somehow Jay thinks that it's gross that he kissed two sisters. I think that's awesome.
I mean, it would be awesome if Paul actually had any backbone or balls.
That's true.
Because he didn't get anything else out of it. He just looks like a thirsty weirdo.
So we hear the glass break in the kitchen, and of course Paul goes to check, but he doesn't see what it is, obviously, because he can't see the entity. So when Jay gets up, she sees a girl walking towards her, and this is all in slow-mo. The score kicks in again. It's shot beautifully. The look on her face, she looks scared out of her mind. Now, do you think this woman is a prostitute? I think this might have been like a prostitute that someone was trying to pass it to, who got killed, and now it is trying to look like the prostitute. Like,
yeah, because I mean, it looked like she was missing some of her teeth,
a couple teeth,
and you know, one of her boobs is hanging out. She's wearing this like weird like mini skirt thing, and one of her socks is off. It's just a really odd, you know, I guess you could say, way for somebody to be killed. Because obviously at this point, this is where I've kind of grasped that, you know, I'm thinking that this entity just mirrors both people that it may have killed and obviously people that you know to, you know, mess with you psychologically. But it just pulls from a repertoire of, you know, other people that it's killed. And I'm going to go with, I agree with you, it's probably was a prostitute. This person just looked weird and really busted up.
Yeah, really, really, really busted up. Who knows what happened to that woman before it got to her.
Yeah.
So obviously, like any rational person would do, Jay runs. She locks herself in her room, and Paul, Yara, and Kelly come to find her. Well, Yara doesn't come yet. It's just Kelly and Paul. They're knocking on the door. She lets them in, and then Yara's knocking on the door. Now, I wish I got to see this film in Dolby. The DP did a really good job of lighting this film. When things are in the dark, it's really ominous, it's really scary, and it's just enough light for you to see what's happening.
Yeah.
And this tall guy, when they open the door and they see Yara, and in the back it's completely dark, and then this giant motherfucker just comes out of nowhere. I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
And it's just amazing. Like, this is one of those situations to where they use so much, like, I mean, it was all practical effects, but it was just so off-putting. The imagery was just so, like, it was so strange and, you know, out of place, and you feel so disturbed but by what are literally just people that have on a little bit of makeup.
Not all of them too.
Yeah, it's just, why am I so like unsettled by this? But
that's
the atmosphere
great storytelling.
is amazing.
Yeah, atmosphere, exactly. So after that, Jade jumps onto a bike. She bikes all the way to the park. She gets onto a swing, just trying to clear her head. Like, because what do you do? This thing, even though it's slow, it is constantly after you. It's constantly walking towards you. So it's just, what do you do? What does clearing your head do at all? You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine what was going through her head. So this is where Paul, Kelly, Yara, they show up, you know, trying to comfort their friend. And I believe this is also where Greg shows up, right? Yeah, so Greg shows up here, and Greg offers to... Now, this is the thing, and I would love for you listeners to let us know in the comments of the podcast, what do you guys think about Greg? Do you think Greg is just trying to be a good friend, or is Greg trying to do this to play on the emotions of someone who's vulnerable and just trying to get some pussy? Like, what do you think?
I don't feel like he needed to, though. Like, he's obviously, like, you know... a player. Like, he's just a cool guy, you know? Like, I don't think he needed it that bad.
Yeah, but sometimes you want a certain person.
Yeah, but I feel like, you know, I presume that these people have been living close to each other for a very long time. Like, they probably have known each other forever. Like, I feel like he did feel genuinely sorry for her, because you're just looking at it from the perspective of, you know, my close neighbor, you know, just, you know, presumably, even though I
banged once in high school.
Yeah, but still, presumably, you know, is going through a difficult time because she was not raped, it was consensual, but, you know, accosted, assaulted somewhat, just kind of, you know, a little bit shook up. Like, I feel like he at least felt some semblance of feeling sorry for her, but, you know, in the process, you know, it's like, I don't think he went into it looking for that. It happened.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like he was an asshole.
I don't think so either. I can also see an argument can be made for both ways.
Sure.
So he offers to drive them around. She did mention to the cops that she did know the area of where he lives, so they went there, and we find out from the police earlier on in the film as well that he just rented this house, you know, just to have an address in the city that he could just say is where he lives. So they find this house, they go in, we see a bunch of cans on a string all around the windows, the doors, obviously, because if it walks into the room or breaks into the window and tried to climb through the window, he would be able to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so they see some clothes that he had in there, some pills. All of the labels have been scratched off. Like, I wonder what the pills are. Could they be pills to help him stay awake? Like, what do you think the pills were for?
Yeah, I feel like they might have just been, like, I don't know, like just maybe drugs to just kind of help him, like, clear his mind.
Like 3 different ones, though? I mean, who knows?
I mean, he probably was going through it. I would be going through it, too. I'd be losing my shit.
Yeah, I would be losing my shit, too. Because you can tell just from that scene when we're at the theater where they're playing that game, and he's like, I would love to be that kid. He has his whole life ahead of him because he knows what's after him. He knows that it could be over just like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're walking through the house. I believe it's Paul that finds the porn magazines. And it's so weird. It's like, okay, so he has a bunch of porn mags and he puts the cum napkins on top of the magazines, and then he decided to put a picture of himself and a girl from high school in the middle of one of the porn magazines. Like, what?
I didn't like mentally think too deep into that. It's whatever. You just throw it wherever it lands,
I guess. But anyways, I thought it was just like because I mean, this entire film, I mean, it's an allegory for STDs, you know what I mean? So it's just like putting that sex and all of that stuff into your face and all of that stuff, promiscuity and all of that stuff. That's what this entire film is about. So they see the picture, they know what school it is, and Greg takes him to the school. They find his yearbook picture, they find his real name, and they were able to find his house. So they get to Jeff's house, and you know, he apologizes again. He's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this to you, but someone did this to me, And it's easy for a girl. You can just go, you can have sex with anyone just like that and just pass it on. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think of Jeff in this moment?
I mean, yes, he seems like a complete fucking ass, but at the same time, it is a matter of survival for him. So, I mean, if it wasn't her, it would have just been somebody else. Somebody just, he had to do it. It's either that or he just gives up on life completely. So he's just explaining to her, which, I mean, he did explain to her before in very layman's basic terms, that he had to, but he also didn't exposit until this point that if he didn't pass it on, it would just come back down the line. He pretty much in the beginning was just trying to let her know, like, this is what it is, and like at least getting her to believe that it exists. But he could have at least told her on that long ass car ride, probably from where the fuck they were coming back from, that she probably needs to pass it on quickly.
I mean, he told her that inside of the warehouse thing. He told her to just pass it on to someone else.
Yeah, but he didn't explain that if you didn't pass it on right away, or if you pass it on and that person gets killed, that it's gonna keep coming back down the line. He didn't tell her that.
Yeah, he didn't explain it until this moment when they came to his house.
Kind of need to know that. Kind of important.
Yeah. So Greg decides to take Jay and everyone else to his dad's lake house. Which is a really nice lake house. I would like that place. I want to be able to have a place where I can just go and it's on this lake. I can just stare out at the beach, forget all the bullshit, and just relax.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. But once again, who are these kids' parents? Because I definitely didn't grow up in a situation where it's just like, yeah, Dad, I'm just gonna go on a road trip with my friends to one of my friends' lake house. I'll see you like in 2 days. No.
I mean, how Greg made it sound is like his mom wouldn't care that he's gone.
Yeah, but that's his mom. What about the other kids? What about Jay and Kelly's mom?
No one gives a shit about them.
What about Yara and Paul's parents? Like, apparently not. Nobody gives a shit.
So Greg is teaching Jay how to shoot. This is where we get to one of my favorite scenes in the entire film, which might be my favorite scene in the entire film. So Jay is sitting in this beach chair, and behind her we can see the roadway that leads to the beach, and we see Yara walking towards them. But when the camera turns, we see that Yara is actually in the water already, messing around in the water. So when we look back, we realize, holy shit, it looks like Yara right now. It grabs Jay by her hair and pulls her up, right? Paul grabs the beach chair, hits it in the back. I mean, we don't really see where it gets hit, and it just like bitch slaps Paul.
Get over here.
It just hits Paul. Like, what did you think of this scene? I thought this was so cool.
It was definitely one of those like climactic moments to where it's like, okay, everybody else is now aware of the existence of this thing, because what the fuck else could have been going on? Like, you kind of get that, like, I guess you could say, like, a moment of realization to where it's like, okay, Jay isn't completely losing her shit. Obviously something is assaulting us.
Yeah, like, obviously. Like, I mean, how else can you explain Paul getting hit? Like, what hit him? How else do you explain that? So they run into the boat shed, and when you look at the window that's above the door, you see the tall guy. And then when it cuts to the door, and a part of the door gets blasted in, and immediately we see Greg. Greg wants to know what's going on. I'm guessing where does Greg go? Like,
he wants to pee.
Right. No. He went to pee when it looked like Yara.
Oh,
but
I have no idea.
when they were outside of the boathouse, he was confused. He was trying to figure out what was going on, and then he left and he went somewhere. Because he didn't went to get the car ready, because after this scene, Jay just gets in the car and she takes off. So I don't really know what he was doing.
I mean, who knows? I mean, I wonder if it assaulted him in any way, but he also didn't seem like he was affected by anything, so who knows where
he doesn't ever see anything until it's too late.
Yeah.
So anyways, so we see this weird looking kid that comes through the hole. Jay runs out of the boat shed and it turns into Annie from the beginning, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. She gets into the car, she speeds off, she runs off of the road trying to swerve from this truck that was reversing. Next thing we see is Jay in the hospital. And can you imagine how scary that is? Like, you have no idea how long you've been unconscious, and it could be at that door at any second.
Yep. And you could, like, her whole family was actually, her mom was actually in the room for once. Like, her mom, her sister, Yara, Paul, Greg, like, everybody's in the room. What if they just all woke up and she was already killed?
Yeah.
Like, that would have been so fucked.
Yeah, and not just killed, but, like, maybe dismembered.
Yeah.
Because we saw what happened to Annie. Like, who knows? But anyways, so obviously Jay is scared out of her mind. She's already had sex with Greg before, and she has sex with Greg to pass it on. And immediately after that, we see Paul is all pissed off because Greg is holding her hand, and we see Greg at school talking to this other girl, and it is very much implied that he passed it on. But again, the thing is, if you don't tell these people about what's going to happen, it doesn't matter. They're going to die instantly, and it's just gonna keep following you. Like, what do you think? Like, I think they should take the time and do exactly what Jeff did.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how much this person's gonna believe you. You're gonna have to, like, go to extreme lengths like Jeff did to try and make that person believe you. But obviously, like, Greg didn't really believe it much himself, so it's just like, yeah, whatever, you know, just gonna continue on with my life, you know, fucking other bitches, being cool. Like, it's whatever. I don't think he gave a shit. I don't feel like okay, let me not say he didn't give a shit, but I don't feel like he really bought into the whole idea of exactly what Jay and Kelly and Paul
Because, I mean, she did go through a traumatic experience. He just thinks that maybe she's fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so the next scene, we get back to Jay's house, and of course Jay can't sleep. How could you sleep? Jay is looking through her window, and we see it that looks like Greg just walking down the street. And she's like, why is Greg just walking down the street in these clothes? You know what I mean? And then we see it banging on the door. No one answers, of course, so it takes a rock, breaks in the glass, goes through the glass into the living room. Now, when Jay runs to the house and tries to go in, there's no glass on the chair, on the window. It's completely clean. He threw one rock. There is no way that the edges are just completely clean, but that's a small nitpick for how, like, all of the great stuff that happens in this film.
Movie magic.
So Jay runs upstairs, and we see Greg's mom is just banging on the door. Well, it looks like Greg's mom just banging on the door, and it just stops, looks at her, and then goes back to banging on doors like, yep, I got you next, bitch.
Yep.
So it's banging on the door. Greg opens the door, and he's like, what do you want, mom? And then it just jumps on him, starts grinding on him.
It was so disturbing. Like, because, like, she was, like, half naked, like, her tit was hanging out of her robe, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, the last thing that you see is your mom dry humping you? Like, what the
I mean, I think the moment she jumped on him, he was very dead, and it was just...
So what was the point of that whole ritualistic thing going on there on the floor then?
I don't know. It was really weird looking, and again, this actress does an incredible job. Her look of shock, how scared she is. She can't even move. She's so terrified. You know what I mean? So she runs out of the room, she gets into the car, and she drives to this bridge on the, where the beach is. She sleeps on the hood of the car. Why not just sleep inside of the car? So just in case it shows up, you can just turn it on and keep going. You know, like, maybe that's, you know, a good idea.
I think she just fell asleep on the hood because she was so... She was trying to be vigilant, but I think she was just so tired because obviously she wasn't sleeping for God knows how long.
Yeah. So she wakes up, she walks to the water, and she sees these 3 guys on a boat, and she takes off most of her clothes, and we just see her walking into the water, and then it cuts back to her driving back to her house. Now, I think she had sex with all 3 guys. I don't think there is any way possible that she only had sex with one of them.
Yeah,
she had to have sex with all 3.
Yeah, like you told me, because at first I was just like, I don't know. But I mean, like you said, it's a small boat, and they were all on the boat. Like, there's no way that she didn't, like you said, have sex with all of them.
And I mean, it would increase her chances, but I mean, again, if you don't tell these people what's going on, it's just gonna keep coming after you.
Yep.
So Jay is trying to get some sleep. I guess maybe she just did it to buy time so she could get some sleep.
Maybe.
Who knows? But she gets some sleep. Paul comes in and he offers to pass it on. He offers to take it from her. Right? And she's like, no, you're my friend. I can't do that to you. And he's like, why Greg? And he's like, he'll be okay. He's a good looking guy. He could get women easily. He wasn't scared, and they already had sex. So it was whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And from that perspective, it's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Obviously it didn't matter in the end, but
yeah,
yes.
it didn't matter at all. But, it's like, Paul is an idiot.
Yep.
He's an idiot. Like, this is what lack of pussy does to the mind. Because I'm like, dude, are you telling me that you're willingly going to take this and eventually end your life just so you can fuck this one girl? Are you kidding me, bro? She doesn't even like you. She fucked you out of necessity.
Like you said, allegory for STDs. Just like, but I really like you. I don't care what you have.
It immediately made me think of Wolf of Wall Street, where Jonah Hill's like, I would let that girl give me AIDS. Yep. Like, dude, really? For 40 minutes to an hour of your life, you are willing to just end your life days after this, just for one piece of pussy? Like, are you nuts?
I mean, not days, but you mean in the sense of the movie?
Yeah, because obviously he went on, he passed it to a prostitute. Who knows how many people prostitutes have sex with? They bought themselves a couple days.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? But that doesn't happen until later on in the film. But we get to the part where Paul offers to go to the pool. They should go to the pool to try to have this final showdown with it, trying to destroy it. They're leaving, they're reversing out of the house, and Jay looks up and we just see this old guy naked standing on the roof. I'm like, what the fuck?
More off-putting images. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it's just such a weird thing to see, and once again, it throws you off. Sometimes it's going to play on your emotions and be someone you know, and other times it's just going to show up as the weirdest fucking thing you've ever seen a person look like, and it's just like, okay, what am I looking at here right now?
Yeah, it's just trying to fuck with you. It's trying to throw you off. So what did you think the plan was behind this scene at the pool? Because they bring all of these electronic devices. It's like, are they trying to get it in the water and electrocute it?
Yeah.
But Jay's also in the water, so if it's going to electrocute it, wouldn't it also electrocute Jay?
I mean, I think they were hoping that, because it moves slowly, that Jay could get out of the water, and then they could throw the things in the pool to electrocute it.
I mean, I guess that makes sense, but it doesn't work that way at all.
Nope.
And it decides to take these things and throw it at Jay.
Yep.
So at first, we don't see what it looks like, and then we realize that it looks like Jay's dad.
Yep, her dead dad.
Her dead father. It's throwing a TV at her head.
TV, iron, anything.
Blow dryer. I'm like, the fuck? So it's just throwing these things at her. It hits her in the head like 3 times. She starts bleeding. So Kelly grabs like a sheet, throws it over its shape, so it's obviously that it's an entity. It's not just something that's complete, it's just invisible to everyone that's not affected. It's actually a thing that's there.
Yeah.
So Paul gets a shot off, shoots it right into the head. I believe it's right before that he's trying to shoot it long distance and he shoots Yara in the leg.
Yeah. I feel like it's some kind of weird like version of a poltergeist, because it's like normally people can't see poltergeists, but this one person can see the poltergeist.
Yeah.
But it's still somewhat of a physical thing to where, you know, you can somewhat see the manifestation if, you know, you put something solid over like a sheet. But yeah, it made me think about a poltergeist.
Yeah, so it falls into the water and it wakes back up, grabs Jay by the leg, and Paul with these magic bullets, I guess he just has a bag full of ammunition.
Yeah.
So he's just shooting and his aim is perfect because he misses Jay completely with no issues and shoots it right into the head.
Yep.
And Jay finally gets out of the pool and they're asking her, is it dead? Is it dead? And I love the way she gets to the edge of the pool, the score starts swelling, and we just see a bunch of blood just filling up the pool. I thought that was really cool. What did you think of that shot?
Yeah, no, it was definitely one of those really visually alluring shots, and it's like you don't know what's going to happen, but then they just pull away from the shot.
Yeah, I love that shot. And they think that it might be over. They think that they killed it. But maybe not, because they get back to Jay's house. And this is where Jay and Paul have sex. And this is where Paul goes to find the prostitute. He also passes it on. And Jay and Paul go to visit Yara in the hospital. And then we see Jay and Paul walking down the street. And I think it's like 3 shots after the first one, we finally see a person, a being, walking towards them as they're holding hands, walking down the street. And it just goes to black, score, and it's like boom, it follows.
Yeah,
it tells
exactly.
you everything right there. It's never going to stop. It's always going to be there. What are your final thoughts on It Follows? I absolutely love this film.
Excellent film, excellent screenplay, excellent cinematography, phenomenal sound design, because it can easily get overdone with too many, you know, really hokey sound effects that, you know, people try to put into horror movies. It shouldn't be sound effects being used as jump scares. Didn't feel like any of that happened. It was more like the sound effects were used to, you know, highlight what you were already seeing visually. So everything was just phenomenal. It was really fresh and new. And I don't feel like I had seen any movie exactly like it in any recent memory, honestly.
Yeah, I can definitely echo that. I think It Follows is a very unique movie. I don't think you can find any other film and say that it's like It Follows. And I think like films like this should get more recognition. And I want to ask you, I want you to recommend, and this is something that I want to do throughout the series, but I want to recommend one movie per episode that you think the listeners should go watch that's a genuinely great horror movie that doesn't get enough attention. Do you have a recommendation?
Yeah, so it's something we kind of stumbled upon on Netflix, and it is a indie horror film. I know it's a Spanish film. I don't know exactly what Spanish country, but it's called Veronica. It was a interesting take on, you know, I guess you could say something similar to a mixture of a possession and just kind of, you know, paranoia. But it didn't feel overdone, and it didn't feel like something you had seen a million times. And maybe it was because of the tone of a different culture being mixed in with it, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it takes place in Madrid, 1991, and I will also recommend Veronica for this episode. Veronica is a really, really good film. You've seen a lot of films that deal with possession and these kinds of things, but Veronica takes it to another level. It hits you right out of the gate. It does not fuck around. The scares are really good. I think the cinematography is great. There's no cheap jump scares. It's not just filled with a bunch of hot teens trying to run away from a spirit or some kind of slasher. This is a genuinely great horror film, and I highly recommend you guys going to see Veronica. I want to see more from David Robert Mitchell. I want to see what else this guy can do as far as writing films, as far as directing films. Like, what are your hopes for him? Like, would you like to see him take up like something in like the Conjuring universe, or would you like to see him tackle something like the Haunting series on Netflix? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would enjoy if he were able to get some, I guess you'd say mainstream recognition. But I would like to see, and I know this is just me being idealistic, but I would like to see him direct another really cool indie film that, hopefully breaks into the mainstream. Sometimes people only are able to get their big break by, being able to helm something that already has notoriety. But I feel like it would be so much more gratifying for somebody that has that fresh and interesting take to be able to create something that becomes, a mainstream cult classic and not just something that is only known of by, true horror enthusiasts.
Yeah, so he actually directed a film that came out this year. It's called Under the Silver Lake. It stars Andrew Garfield. It's a comedy crime drama kind of thing. I'm like, well, that's completely that's the complete opposite of what he did, which is interesting though. I would like to see him stretch his legs. Obviously he's done that going into a different genre, so I would like to check that movie out and see what it's all about. Definitely.
And I don't want him to get stuck doing any one thing. I understand how that can be stifling for your artistic nature, kind of like a James Wan thing, to where he felt like he was just being stuck into one genre, even though he is like a god of horror.
He really is.
But still, I mean, I get it. I want that person to be able to get their name out there, and sometimes you do have to do that mainstream thing, but I just want them to be able to continue to make art that's true to their artistic nature without having to sell themselves out.
Most definitely. I feel like the perfect balance, I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a really good example of this, because he does the Marvel movies, and that gives him time to do all of the indie movies that he loves to do. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to do the paycheck movie in order to fund and in order to have time so that you can do these indie movies, because he's being paid well by the MCU. He has who knows how many more appearances on his contract, so he has mainstream films lined up for him to make money, for him to get exposure to, for those smaller budget movies.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm just, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I guess I'm a purist.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, because I'm that way too. I would prefer if they just got to make weird indie movies forever. Like, I need more movies like Dead Silence from James Wan. I need more movies like that.
Yeah, but everybody can't be a Kevin Smith, so.
Yeah. Mia, this was so much fun. I can't wait. Just a sneak peek for you guys. We're going to be doing Oculus next. Oculus is another movie that definitely got more recognition than it follows, I think, but one that I think needs more and should have made more money in theaters, because this is another great horror movie.
Yes, I definitely agree, and I'm so excited to be doing this Road to Halloween series with you.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to continue doing this for years to come, hopefully. So guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you guys follow us all over social media at C4 Spoilers. Make sure to head over to carefulforspoilers.com to get updates on everything going on in the world of movies, TV shows, anime, gaming, and get links to all of our other podcasts on the Careful for Spoilers podcast network, where you can get the link to our Patreon, where our Best One, Worst One podcast exists. We just did Stephen King. We've done Keanu Reeves, Nick Cage, Kevin Smith, Christopher Nolan, the Batman movies, Spider-Man. We've done a lot of cool categories on the Best One, Worst One podcast, so I would love for you guys to check that out. Again, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys next time.